Well, hey guys, thanks for joining me. Obviously the setting is a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. I did an intro out on the water, but I guess I had some technical difficulties and it didn't come out, so I'm having to do it at the house. On this episode, just doing a little bit of fun fishing out on Lake Wylie at the South Point access area. The goal of today was to do some offshore techniques. And that's what you will see me mostly doing. Is I wanted to work on some offshore stuff. The weather was not cooperating. It was not supposed to be windy, but it was it was much windier than anticipated. So I did what I could. I ended up fishing some docks and doing some other stuff, but yeah, I just kind of had to improvise. Necessity is the mother of invention. So that's what I did. Did a little bit of fishing, had a good time. That's enough of me talking. Let's get to it. First little fish of the day, look at him. I actually caught that guy trolling out to my first spot, so maybe that bodes well. Let's get him back in the water. Not the target species. Let's get him in the water. All right. How you doing, buddy? All right, just a little guy here. Look at him. Look at this little guy. Well, my plan today is I was going to work on some offshore stuff. They weren't calling for like high winds, but we got high winds, and it's just too rough out there on those points. So I did a backup plan, and I'm just going to hit some docks, and maybe the wind will die down. I can do what I originally wanted to do. But glad this guy was here. Glad I was able to catch him. Let's get him back in the water. All right. Look at that little guy. Caught that on something special. First cast with it, actually. That's pretty cool. And I'll tell you about it here in a second. Look at this guy. Heck yeah. All right. Let's get him back in the water. And now it's time for tackle roundup. All right, guys, I was actually like really excited about what I caught that fish on. I'm not gonna say that I invented this because I certainly didn't. I've thought about this for a while, but never actually done it. It's something that I call the Carolina Jig. You may be wondering what in the world's a Carolina Jig. It's this. That's right, it's a Carolina rig, but instead of doing like a weight with the bead and the swivel and everything, what I've done is I just tied on a 3/4 ounce jig with a Palomar knot and then left a really, really long tail end. And then on that tail end, I just tied a worm hook and then put a worm on it. And I fish it just like a Carolina rig, but instead of like having the that weight and swivel and everything hanging down there, I basically just used the jig as the weight, and I cast it out, big long cast, and then just dragging it really, really slowly. What I'm doing is I'm about at a point that I know there's fish on, and so I'm just at that point and on the shallow end, making long casts out to the point, and then just slowly dragging that thing along. And this is my first time ever like really experimenting with this, and it's cool to actually catch fish on it. The fish, just FYI, you have two options to catch fish on. You know, you can catch it on the worm part, or you can catch it on the jig part. I caught it on the jig. So I caught it on the jig part. Actually, let me show you something else. This jig, it's just a football jig, but as a trailer, I just looked and I had a bunch of like old lizards in the tackle box that I wasn't using. I don't really use a lot, and I was like, well, I'm gonna just put those to use. So that's my trailer. Actually, it's just a 6-inch zoom lizard in Junebug, you know, that I just bit the top half of it off, and that's what I'm using. It's not like a crawl trailer, it's like a Junebug zoom lizard. So kind of a different setup. I don't know if this is going to be something I'm going to do a lot, but it's definitely fun to play around with. But let me get back to it. And that concludes today's tackle roundup. Back-to-back cast, guys. Back-to-back cast. That's awesome. He ain't much. Look at him. Look at that guy. Let's get this little feller back in the water. Well, guys, I think I'm gonna call it a day. Mixed bag, really. Was able to put a couple fish in the boat, so that was fun. Had fun with that Carolina Jig. I'm gonna patent pending. I'm gonna, yeah, I gotta copyright that. I'm not the first person that ever came up with it, but I think I'm the first person that ever came up with the name. So, you know, possession is 9/10 of the law. So, yeah, that was cool. That Carolina Jig, I like it. Anyways, if you'd like to know anything about what I did today, the lures, the launch, or anything else, you can look down in the description box. I'm going to leave some additional information down there. But while you're there, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. The channel's updated every week with new fishing content and new fishing adventures. So, I'll be seeing you next week. This is Josh, and this is Abide Fishing.